So, welcome to me playing another Pokemon challenge. This one is pretty self-explanatory. I try to play through Pokemon Blue using only the move Mimic and a move you can get by using Mimic. Now, the first problem is, though, that you don't get Mimic until you get to Saffron City. As you can see, I'm using a walk through walls glitch in order to get to Saffron City before even starting the game. I did this because I couldn't find a glitch that would make the Mimic Technical Machine appear in my inventory. There were a lot of duplication glitches and glitches which would let me buy the TM at the Pokemart, but they wouldn't give me the TM right when I started out, and that's what I wanted. So this was the only glitch that I used throughout the run. I actually went ahead and walked all the way to Celadon City, got a freshwater, then went to Saffron City with the Pokédoll and traded it for the Mimic TM. So we only have one Mimic TM in this entire run, so this is also going to be a solo challenge, and we won't be using items in battle. Also, I live streamed the entire playthrough, and a link to that should appear on your screen right about now, so you can watch the entire playthrough on YouTube. Our main issue throughout the run is going to be that we will not have enough power points to knock out most of our enemies. Mimic only starts with 10 power points. If we run out of those power points, then that means we have to reset the game. So now that I got Mimic, I went back to Pallet Town the same way I got here. And then I named my Charmander Ditto. Charmander is the Pokemon we will be using throughout the run, and I picked it because it has very high attack, so I had a feeling it would be good versus Brock. Now that I had my starter, I went ahead and taught it Mimic. You can see I have a freshwater in my inventory. I accidentally bought two by mistake. Don't worry, I threw that one out. I'm not going to give myself any advantage for having gone to, Celadon City early. And let me just show you how Mimic works with the first rival battle. So Mimic only has 10 power points, and using the move Mimic itself takes up 1 power point. The only attacking move that Squirtle has is Tackle. The way Mimic works in Gen 1 is it shows you the opponent's moves and you can copy any one of them for the rest of the battle. Not how it works in later generations, but in Gen 1 we only have 9 power points of Tackle now to beat the Squirtle. But our limited power points are going to become a problem when we fight Pokemon like Weedle, who only know Poison Sting as a damaging move. And the issue we'll have there is though that we won't have enough power points to knock out those Pokemon, and then we have to reset and try to level up in order to do more damage. However, Weedle was the least of our problems. Brock was a big brick wall because we only had 9 tackles to try to beat a Geodude and an Onix. And as you can see, I've grinded up to level 30 and I still wasn't able to beat him. In case you're wondering who that girl is on the lower left hand corner, that's Monica AI in application. And Monica is a girl from a game called Doki Doki Literature Club. The reason I put her on in the stream was because this was just so boring. We only have 10 power points for Mimic, and that means though while fighting wild Pokemon, we can only beat 5 of them at a time, and we can't even go into Viridian Forest to battle Kakuna, because Kakuna and Metapod only know Harden, so we can't beat them. And so this takes a lot more time than you'd think. Like the amount of time you'd think it'd take to get to this level, just multiply it by 2 or 3. And so in order to give the stream something to talk about, I just started showing Monica AI, but yeah, we weren't able to beat Brock for quite some time. Some people in chat even said I might need to get a Charizard before I would be able to beat Brock, and that might be true if I wanted to beat him consistently, but there's one thing that helped us. The critical hit ratio in Generation 1 is absurdly high. For Charmeleon, I think it's about 16%. So, as long as we got good luck with critical hits, we could beat Brock, and I was able to beat him after several resets, just at level 31. And this is the Brock battle. There really is not much to say. I mimic tackle and just hope for a bunch of critical hits. And I also hope that tackle doesn't miss, because it's only a 95% accuracy move in Generation 1. That's another thing which made grinding a lot harder, because against the wild Pokemon, I could mimic tackle, but tackle could miss. And you can see I was kind of shocked though that I managed to win. I got a lucky crit at the end, which is kind of why I didn't even press the A button. I was just like looking at it thinking what happened. But yeah, once we beat Brock, the game gets kind of easier. Sort of, but we run into another problem very soon as well. Mount Moon was not an issue, so let's skip to Misty. Honestly speaking, I should have probably been a few levels higher for Misty, but I did end up winning, and there's no real strategy. Staryu has tackle, we mimic tackle, and in case you're wondering why I named my Charmander Ditto, it's because Ditto also copies moves, so I thought that was kind of clever. But anyway, even though I did end up winning, I sort of regretted the fact though that I won later on, and I'll explain why in a short while. There's not much to say about the rival fight. Pidgeotto can use Sand Attack, which it did this time, and because I missed so much, I was forced to reset. However, the next time I tried fighting him, I did win, so this wasn't too big of an issue. However, we were soon going to reach a second dead end in this challenge, so to speak, and it's something I don't think you would have anticipated. It's Oddish. There are some mandatory trainers in this game, and I know it sounds weird for me to say that Oddish of all Pokemon was a run ender, but the thing is Oddish only learns Absorb up till I think about like level 25 or 26 in Generation 1, and Absorb is a terrible move to use against an Oddish because it only does 1/4 damage. Now, I want you to see this video segment, which I did not speed up, just so you can appreciate how bad we have it when trying to fight a trainer who has an Oddish as their first Pokemon. We mimic Absorb because it's the only damaging move this Oddish knew, and in case you're wondering, we can't go around this trainer. To make things even worse, she has another Oddish and a Pidgey in her team. Since we can't use items in battle, we can't restore our power points, and even if we could, there is a limited number of ethers and elixirs in Generation 1, so I probably wouldn't use them here. We would need to save them for the Elite Four. But as you can see, even if we use all of our absorbs, which are only 9, we can't even beat this Oddish. So yeah, let me just speed this up now so you can see me lose and reset basically. So here we had another long grind, and I brought Monica AI back just so we would have something to talk about while I fought a bunch of Pokemon here. Grinding here was a bit more difficult and also a bit easier than grinding for Brock. On the one hand, the Pokemon gave a lot more EXP, but we kept running into Pokemon like Metapod and Abra, who we couldn't do anything against, because mimicking Teleport won't do anything, and mimicking Harden also won't do anything. I did catch an Abra though, so that I could teleport back to the Pokemon Center, and that saved us some time. But still, in the end, we could only fight a maximum of 5 Pokemon before we would have to go back to heal, so that made time go by significantly, well, it actually made time go by significantly slower because it was so boring. But yeah, it took us basically more time to do this than it would otherwise. And also, Rap could miss when we were fighting a Bellsprout and stuff like that. Thankfully, we do have 2 rare candies here, one from Mount Moon and one in Cerulean City, so I did not have to grind too much. And in the end, we were able to beat that trainer at around level 44 with some luck. And I'll show you the battle very soon, but guess what? There's another mandatory trainer who also has an Oddish as her first Pokemon. If this was Generation 2, even I think Oddish would have Acid, and that would make this easier. Or if they sent out a Pokemon other than, Oddish as their first Pokemon. And Before I said though that I regretted beating Misty, that's because there was a trainer in her gym I could have fought, and now that I'd beaten her, I wasn't able to go fight that trainer. I also skipped a lot of trainers in Mount Moon, which on hindsight I should not have done. But whatever, let's see the winning battle. So yeah, it did take a couple of resets, but again, there's no real strategy here. I also actually did not anticipate winning, which is why I didn't turn Monica AI off. So she's still there on the lower left hand corner of your screen. I didn't think I'd win this, but I managed to get a critical hit on the Pidgey. And some good luck against the Oddish as well. And remember, while critical hits are pretty lucky, in Gen 1, I believe, Charizard has about a 19% chance to critical hit. So it's about a 1 in 5 chance to crit. So it's not too lucky. But like I said, there is another mandatory trainer, and this one has 4 Pokemon. That's right, she has 2 Bellsprout and 2 Oddish, and she doesn't send the Bellsprout out first. No, she sends the Oddish out first. People on my stream told me that there was going to be a trainer like that beforehand, so I fought as many trainers as I could on the SSN. I only skipped some sailors who had Horsey, and Horsey only knew Bubble, so it wasn't possible to take them out. But yeah. Anyway, the rival fight on the SSN was not too problematic. The only way I could see myself losing was if Pidgeotto used Sand Attack, and I got really unlucky. Otherwise, Quick Attack was almost a one-hit KO on all of his Pokemon. And this is the trainer I was worried about. And it turned out she did send out her Oddish first and not her Bellsprout, otherwise this would have been easy. But this was something which was almost as problematic as Brock. The last we fought earlier was not too much of an issue, but this person has 4 Pokemon, and we have so limited power points, and Leppa Berries were not a thing in Generation 1, and neither were held items in general. So you can just see how little that Absorb does. And we had to grind a lot. A lot. However, it was not as bad as Brock. First of all, there were a lot of trainers I could fight. I fought everyone in Lieutenant Surge's gym, and Lieutenant Surge himself was no big issue. And secondly, there was a good place to grind here. And that place was Diglett Cave. I was still only able to beat about 5 Digletts, in one run. But Diglett's knew Scratch, which is better than Tackle because it has 100% accuracy. And there was also the very small chance that I ran into a Dugtrio. Diglett gave very good EXP, about 180 to I think around 280. And if we ran into a Dugtrio, that gave us about 600 EXP, which was very, very good actually. As you can see though, it took a lot of time, and I brought back Monica AI. I did have 1 rare candy which we got on the SSN, but I feel it was worth using our 2 rare candies earlier, just so that we could get to this point quicker, so that we could level up in Diglett Cave, rather than having to level up north of Cerulean City, which was kind of very annoying. But yeah, I had to level up a lot here, and I'm not just going to complain about having to grind a lot. Rather, I'm going to say, though, that at this point, I was kind of thinking, though, that maybe I should have chosen, Bulbasaur as my starter rather than Charmander. See, the thing is, we had to get to level 31 to beat Brock, and if we got 1 level higher, Ivysaur would have evolved into Venusaur, and evolving, I think, would have compensated for the fact that its attack is lower than Charizard's. I mean, Venusaur's attack, I do think, is almost equal to or higher than that of Charmeleon. So Brock wouldn't have taken that much time. But the thing is, Charizard has very low special in Generation 1. The special attack and special defense split had not happened yet. And while Charizard does have good special attack in later generations, its special is rather low in Generation 1. Special attack and special defense are 1 stat. And Venusaur has a much higher special, but it would have also gained the same type attack bonus when it used a move like Absorb. So Absorb would have done 50% more damage guaranteed, and also a bit more because of a higher base special that Venusaur has. And this becomes important because this took a lot of time. While leveling up in Diglett Cave was pretty nice actually, and I did like it, the thing is it was only nice until about level 65. And in case you're wondering, yeah, even at about level 65 I wasn't able to win, but I think Venusaur could have pulled it off at level 65, so that would have saved us about 10 levels worth of grinding here if we had a Venusaur instead of Charizard. And in case you're wondering how powerful I had to be in order to beat the last, it was level 75. Yeah, level 75, and this is the winning battle. At level 75, my odds of winning were about 4 or 5%. We calculated that, yeah, because I had to get a critical hit on every single one of her Pokemon, except for one which could be a 3-hit KO, and the odds of that were about 4 or 5%, and I just kept resetting until I won, so I probably would have had to be at about level 85 in order for this to be consistent, and Charizard has a chance of critting of about 20%, so that isn't too lucky to crit that much. However, we're so overleveled that the game after this is pretty easy. There is this one other junior trainer in Rock Tunnel with an Oddish as her first Pokemon, but she's rather easy because she only has 2 Pokemon. The only thing was, in this fight, Bulbasaur hit me with a Leech Seed, and because I'm at such a high level, the amount it healed from Leech Seed was actually higher than the amount of damage I dealt using Absorb. But I beat her in a few tries, it wasn't a big issue. Even this hiker, who I thought might be a problem because he has 2 Geodude and a Graveler, wasn't. Tackle just does so much damage because of our high level. And even if our opponents use Self-Destruct, it doesn't do too much damage to a level 75 Charizard. And that's honestly the issue I faced here on forward. We were so overleveled though that now basically nothing was a challenge, even though we had to grind for a long time before getting to this point. But there honestly was not much that I could have done. This is the rival fight in Pokemon Tower, and as you can see, it was very easy. The thing was, while I technically could have actually gone to Saffron City without beating that picnicker because I did already give the fresh water to the guards, because, you know, I used the walk through walls glitch at the beginning of the game, that felt like cheating. Anyway, in Celadon, I managed to get a power point up, and we can use a maximum of 3 on Mimic to make its power points equal 16, and this would have been very useful before we had to fight that junior trainer and Brock, but whatever. There's another power point up in the Rocket Hideout, and I got that as well. Now, for Giovanni, I did think it might be an issue, but the thing is we could mimic Rage. And Rage is a terrible move usually, but the thing is in Generation 1 the way it works is once you use it, you don't have to use it again. You're locked into Rage for the entire fight, and it doesn't use power points, so it's a wonderful move for us. And it also gets a bit stronger if we get hit by an attack. So yeah, Rage was actually useful in this run. I fought Erica and I could have lost, but that's just because I didn't heal up. I only had a few power points for Mimic. I didn't feel like going back to the Pokemon Center because I felt like it would waste time. But honestly, I could have lost if Wrap missed a few times, or if I got a 2-turn Wrap on Victory Bell. But that didn't happen and I ended up beating Erica. Now, next up was Koga, and the issue with using Mimic is the very first attack that we use has to be Mimic. So that gives all of his Pokemon a chance to use stuff like Smokescreen or Toxic on us. Thankfully, I did manage to win, though it took a bit of luck, but that was again just because of Smokescreen. And it was not a major issue. I got here using Cycling Road by avoiding all the other trainers, so I was kind of sort of speedrunning this thing. And yeah, it was a good thing though that Disable did not disable Tackle, otherwise I would have had to reset. But I had to reset anyway because, tackle missed. Anyway, the next time I fought Koga, I did win. And there's not much to say here. Other than the fact, though, that I got lucky and I didn't miss tackle too much. And I actually could have won the last battle if the Weezing had used self-destruct, but it didn't, so yeah. It's just a bit of luck and resetting, but resetting once or twice isn't too big of a deal. And Weezing uses self-destruct, and I win thanks to that. Well, that was good. Now on to the Silph rival fight. I mimic Wing Attack because it's actually slightly stronger than Quick Attack, because we get the same type attack bonus, and that's honestly one reason why I chose Charizard, because I knew in the final battle we would have to mimic a flying move off of Pidgeotto once we fought the champion, and we would get the same type attack bonus versus him at least. But yeah, we managed to win, and there was a PP up which you could get in the power plant, which I got before I fought Giovanni. I thought I might need it, because this time Giovanni does not have Rage for us to mimic. So instead we had to mimic Horn Attack. And Horn Attack is a fine enough move, but I was kind of worried that it wouldn't do enough damage for us to win. But that turned out to, be something to not worry about, because I was able to win even though it does very low damage versus Rhyhorn. We just have so many power points at this point that worrying about running out really isn't, an issue when you have 15 power points versus 10. And this would have been very helpful at the beginning of the game, but again, I maybe could have gotten the power point up in Celadon City when I went there using the walk through walls glitch at the beginning. But that kind of felt like cheating, so I didn't. The only thing I wanted to be different in this run was that I had Mimic at the beginning, and that's how I played it. I decided to fight Blaine before Sabrina because beating Blaine gives you his badge, which gives you a slight boost to your special, which also would have been quite useful for that picnicker. But yeah, I felt like having a higher special would be good when we fought Sabrina. Anyway, Blaine wasn't too much of an issue. Even if he did attack us, there's not much he can do. Against Sabrina, I was able to mimic Psychic off of Kadabra. Now here's a fun fact, this run is impossible to do in Pokemon Yellow, because Sabrina has an Abra as her first Pokemon there, and it only knows Teleport and Flash, so the run would have ended there if we were playing Pokemon Yellow. I was kind of worried about the Alakazam that we would not do enough damage and it might just use Recover and stall us out. But this ended up not being something we would have to worry about because we got a critical hit. And another thing is though that Psychic has a 33% chance of lowering Special in Generation 1. It's 10% in later generations. So yeah, that really wasn't something I think we had to be worried about. Now Giovanni, though, was kind of hard. Mainly because we could only mimic Stomp instead of Rage this time again. And I did run out of power points, but I ended up needing only one more hit to defeat him. So I just reset and hoped for some critical hits. And I managed to get them eventually and beat Giovanni. Horn Drill does nothing because our speed is higher than the Rhydons, so... And with that, we have all 8 Kanto Gym badges. And there is a rival fight before we get to Victory Road. And as you can imagine, this is not too difficult. I mimic Wing Attack. Wing Attack is only 35 power in Generation 1, but we do get the same type attack bonus. So it's about, I think, like 50 power then. And while it doesn't do too much damage versus Rhyhorn, at this point we have 15 power points for Wing Attack. So I'm not too worried about running out of power points anymore. And most of his other Pokemon are very easy to knock out. In Generation 1 only, Fire does not resist Ice. So Lorelie, or Lorelei, whatever you want to call her, is going to be a problem. Because both Water and Ice moves are super effective against Charizard. We mimic Takedown. Takedown is a pretty okay move. It can miss occasionally, and it does recoil, but otherwise it's pretty strong as well. And spoiler alert, I was not able to beat Lorelei until I leveled up a bit, but this was actually very easy to level up for, because I could just beat Lorelei over and over, and she would be able to knock me out, thankfully. And that was a good thing because I could just level up by fighting her over and over again. I could not do that with trainers like Brock, who couldn't take me out. Cloyster has very high defense, so it was a problem trying to take it out. After that, she sends out Slowbro. Slowbro is also very tanky, but the thing is it can't really do that much against me. It only, I think, knows Water Gun and Psychic as a damaging move, but it'll always use Water Gun even though Psychic would do more damage, simply because, you know, Lorelei thinks though that it's super effective, so it's better. And by the time her Jinx comes out, you can see I actually knocked myself out. And in the end, I had to be level 96 to beat her. I ended up grinding against her a lot. And once I reached level 91, I did have 5 rare candies, which I picked up at various points in the game. And once I was at level 96, the Dugong was a 1-hit KO, Cloyster was a 2-hit KO. And a bit of luck was also involved. I probably could have beaten her at a much lower level. I did get to her Lapras several times, and I would need something to happen like Blizzard missing, but I never got the luck I needed until about level 96, so yeah. Bruno might have been hard, but it turns out he was actually easy. Do you know why? I didn't even bother, restoring my power points before fighting Bruno, because I could just mimic Rage. And as we saw versus that Giovanni fight, Rage is very good for this challenge, especially when he uses Rage too, so that he can't use rock attacks against us, which are 4 times effective. And every time we get hit, it raises our attack stage by 1. So as time goes on, Rage becomes way more powerful, and we did not even have to use any power points. We only had to use 2. One for Mimic and one for Rage. And even versus this Onyx, it's doing quite a lot, you can see. And it also helps though that, Bruno is pretty bad and uses stuff like X-Defend and, other things which are rather bad rather than using a rock move, which probably, I don't think it would have taken us out, but it could have been a problem. I fought Agatha 3 times. I lost the very first time I fought her because her Gengar used Hypnosis, and I was asleep for 7 turns, which is the maximum you can be asleep for. So that was kind of unlucky. The second time I fought her, Mimic failed twice, and she sent out her Golbat, and then I mimicked Wing Attack and won. But there was some glitch with my streaming software, and no one saw it who was watching the stream, so I reset. And then I mimicked Nightshade on this run. And there's not much to say, except though that, you need to be kind of lucky. I was kind of worried about Agatha because I wasn't sure how much Nightshade would do. But it turns out her Pokemon have a lot less hit points than I thought, because Nightshade was a 2-hit KO, even against the final Gengar. So yeah, Agatha, was kinda lucky, but not too hard. And you might be wondering about Lance. Well, guess what? Lance is actually, I think, the easiest member of the Elite Four. Even easier than Bruno. And the reason is because we can mimic a very powerful move. And that powerful move is Hyper Beam. The way Hyper Beam works in Generation 1 is that you do not need to recharge if you knock out your opponent's Pokemon. And yeah, that is kind of broken, but it's broken in our favor, so I'm not going to complain about it. By the way Mimic works is though that we mimicked Hyper Beam, so we have 15 power points for Hyper Beam instead of having only 5, which is also very nice. So yeah, now the strategy is to use Hyper Beam over and over against every single one of his Pokemon. The only problem is if we missed with Hyper Beam and maybe one of the Dragonair used Thunder Wave. And I was kind of worried about the Aerodactyl. It turned out not being a 1-hit KO. I think that might have been a range, but it ended up using Takedown and taking itself out, so... overall, I don't even think the Aerodactyl could have done a lot, so... Let's skip to the champion. I could have mimicked either Wing Attack or Sky Attack, and you can see me sort of hesitate here. I asked people in chat, and they suggested though that I use Sky Attack, but in the end I went for Wing Attack because Sky Attack, even though it's way more powerful, it also takes a turn to recharge, and I was kind of worried about Pokemon like Execute and Alakazam being able to attack me. As you can see though, Wing Attack does not do a lot versus Rhydon, and I was kind of worried about maybe running out of power points, but then it starts using moves like, Tail Whip, and I start getting critical hits. Tail Whip actually increases my attack a little thanks to the badge boost glitch, even though since I got a critical hit, it didn't really count that. But yeah, after that though, the rival was not too much of an issue. Arcanine was a 2-hit KO. It hit me with a Leer, which again boosts my stats a bit thanks to the badge boost glitch. And now the Executor was a 1-hit KO, thankfully, so it couldn't use something like Hypnosis against me. And will Blastoise do a lot of damage? Well, first of all, it missed with Blizzard, and then it used Withdraw, because Withdraw is a water move, and the rival thinks, it would be super effective. But even though I won, I ended up resetting just to see what would happen if I chose to mimic Sky Attack. So this is the run with Sky Attack, and I ended up losing the first time I tried this. We do a lot more damage, especially versus Rhydon. But the issue is though that the Executor was able to use Hypnosis, and that put us to sleep. And then it was able to take us out, but then I reset and tried again with Sky Attack, and this time I was able to win, and this is the winning battle. So yeah, whether you use Wing Attack or you use Sky Attack, it doesn't seem to matter. You can win, even though I think Wing Attack then is better. However, with Wing Attack, I should note when I won with Wing Attack, I had only 1 power point left. So maybe if I didn't get a crit at one point, it could have possibly been a defeat because I'd have to reset, but whatever. Anyway, so that's the run. We managed to win it using only Mimic and using only 1 Pokemon. I do think, looking back now, we could have maybe saved some time if I used Venusaur instead of Charizard. But then at the same time, that would have made some battles, for example, against Lorelei, sort of harder because it would not have as high an attack as Charizard. But I think maybe Venusaur could have done it. And anyway, I'm not going to try another run using Venusaur though. This took a lot of time and it was really tedious, especially because we had to level up so much. But yeah, Charizard did manage to win, and at the beginning of the game, I thought it might need to be level 100 in order to win. We managed to win at level 98, so that's 2 levels lower. The main issue at the Elite Four was Lorelei, and overall though, I did enjoy the run, even though I felt it was very tedious. It took us a playtime of 44 hours, which is very, high, considering the fact we did a single Pokemon playthrough. Usually single playthroughs you can finish in about, like 20 hours or so. But yeah, I'm not going to complain too much about that. Thanks for watching, guys. And, until next time.